Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The War Machines, written by Ian Stewart Black, based on an idea by Kit Palmer, and directed by Michael Fergusson. Now this story, obviously written by Ian Stewart Black, and he wrote the previous story, The Savages, and if you remember correctly, I wasn't too keen on The Savages. However, here, I'm glad to say that he more than made up for it with this fantastic 4-part adventure, which exists. So we've got the DVD. Hooray! There you go. How cool is that? I was expecting another click. Oh, that's disappointing. Oh well. But yeah, the background behind this is that this was made. The writing period was during the time when they were making the new post office tower, which actually plays an important part in the story. And Enna Lloyd was trying to look for a scientific advisor so that the science could be a bit more accurate. Because before, the science was a bit more like, it was proper science fiction. Basically, whatever the writers made up, that's how the logic worked. So this was an attempt to make the science in it a bit more logical, a bit more real science into it. And so they were interviewing people about a suggested idea about what they could do with the post office tower, and Kit Palmer came up with this idea that a rogue telephone system, computer system, took over and could then use it to destroy the world. And Enna Lloyd liked it so much, this idea so much, that he actually A, hired a writer for this idea, and B, gave him the job as scientific advisor for the series in a heartbeat. So that's how this story came up with the idea, and why he has a based on an idea credit on it. But he's not actually. I don't think he's an actual writer yet, because he does write later on. But there's a bit of a background for you. This story was written because the post office had a new tower, and the story has a lot of innovations in it that make it feel a lot more modern than most William Hartnell era stories. It felt more like Doctor Who as we know it, more in the 70s and in the later 60s than stories before it. So yeah, let's delve right in. So the Doctor and Dodo, they land on present day Earth. Yes, the first story since I believe it's the Planet of Giants that is set all in modern day Earth. I mean, we've had some segments, but now we're on present day Earth again. And the Doctor can feel an evil presence, and there's a bit where he tells Dodo that his skin is prickling, and the last time he had that sensation was meeting the Daleks, and Dodo's like, who? So Dodo's the first companion who's never met the Daleks. That's an interesting thing to note, isn't it? But so they go to the tower, and strangely enough, they not only let the Doctor in, but they even give him a little detour on how it all works. And it's really William Hartnell, the Doctor, he becomes this is the Doctor at his most authority at this moment in time. Later on he befriends the military, and he sort of becomes a military leader like we see later on in the series, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So whilst they're there, they meet the secretary of it, Polly, and she befriends Dodo. And so whilst the Doctor is talking to Professor Brett, who created this computer, which connects to all computers in the world, and it can communicate to them. And it's got an AI intelligence, though they don't call it AI intelligence. So basically, it's a precursor to the internet, which yeah, that's very forward thinking of the series, coming up with the concept of the internet before at least half a decade before the internet. It wouldn't have been half a decade. At least 30 years before the internet was even a concept. So, yeah, the whole scientific angle the story goes for, it really holds up. It does. It really holds up. But whilst the Doctor's talking to the scientist, Polly takes Dodo to a nightclub. And these scenes where they're in the nightclub feel a lot like Adam Adamant Lives, a show from the 60s, which is like a sort of like a precursor to the Austin Powers films. Sort of like that. It's very, very, it doesn't age well, Adam Adamant Lives, but these scenes make it feel like it's like in 1960, and yeah, even though, yeah, it's in modern times during the story, it does take you kind of back, and it's very nice to see a bit more culture into the story, into the modern day stories. But yeah, and whilst they're in the bar, they befriend a sailor named Ben. And whilst this is going on, whilst this is going on, Dodo starts feeling sick and she hears like a high pitch in her head. And as that's going on, back at the Doctor's point of view, he's been asked to join a presentation, a science presentation. And so the Doctor goes there, and Professor Brett is setting up everything at his office, and then Wotan, the computer, comes to life and takes over his brain. And yeah, Wotan, the precursor to internet, is the villain of the story. It seems like a lot of Kit Palmer's ideas are very technophobic, sorry, where he does kind of have like a fear of like modern technology, because it seems like the main problem in all of his stories is like the modern technology. So I don't know what that tells you. But anyway, and whilst this is going on, the Doctor's at the interview, and this guy, like the head of like a military, he's like a military personnel who gives off this like interview, Sir Charles. He kind of befriends the Doctor and joins him in his little quest to finding out what's going on, whilst Brett comes in and takes one of the engineers back to his office so he can mind control, but the Doctor doesn't know this yet. And yeah, Ferguson's directing is absolutely spotless. When Brett takes his guy with him, it zooms up on the Doctor's face and he's like, I wonder, yes, I wonder. Something like that. But yeah, it's very, this episode looks absolutely stunning for 1960s. So it kind of feels like I'm just bragging on how great this story is. I mean, it is good, but it does mean this video might be a bit boring. But anyway, so I'll kind of speed up the plot. Dodo becomes mind controlled and tasks with controlling the Doctor's mind. Now, Dodo then becomes like a huge part in episodes 1 and episode 2, as he goes to Wotan, and then he controversially says, Doctor Who is required. And then the rest of the scientists, who's mind controlled by Wotan, also call him Doctor Who. So yeah, in this story, it's strange because nobody else calls him Doctor Who. It's not like he just turns around and goes, yes, my name is Doctor Who. It's only the people who've been controlled by Wotan and Wotan himself. So yeah, does Wotan know something that we don't? There's a strange bit earlier on in the story where Brett describes how it basically knows everything, and the Doctor gives it a maths question and it works it out. And then Dodo gives it, what does TARDIS mean? And then it actually tells her time and relative dimensions in space. So that's very strange how it knows that, but there you go. So the Doctor is trying to plan something with Sir Charles and trying to convince him that something is going on behind there. And also Dodo's gone missing for a bit. So the Doctor goes to the nightclub to wait for her, and they get a taxi together when Dodo appears, and then they kind of befriend like a homeless person who later figures out that they're making war machines. Get it? The title? War Machines. And then Dodo gets the Doctor on the phone to Brett, who tries to mind control him through the phone. And it doesn't work. And then the Doctor dehypnotizes Dodo. And then she's completely gone through the story. She literally disappears. They explain that Sir Charles has taken her to his house to be looked after by his wife as she gets better. And she doesn't appear in episode 3. She doesn't appear in episode 4. The last we hear of her after this, the Doctor's waiting outside the TARDIS, and Pauli's just like, oh, Dodo's just saying that, just told us to tell you she wants to stay here. Thanks for all the fun, and she gives you her love. So, yeah, Dodo just completely disappears after episode 2. Very disappointing. I think this sets in stone for me that Dodo is one of the weaker companions of the classic era. I mean, she does have her moments, but everything about her is just too quick and abrupt. The way she enters the TARDIS, the way she leaves, some of her character beats in her storylines, and yeah, and it does kind of hurt the story a bit, but not a lot. If you keep it, like I said, Doctor Who's better watched, more self-contained, and when you think of it like that, it doesn't really bother this story too much as the plot keeps on getting thicker and thicker. So luckily it's not a drag. Luckily it's not a drag, because this story after that bit is just spot on after spot on, as the Doctor kind of befriends, as Sir Charles starts to work out about these mind controls and stuff. He gets the military involved, and it feels like UNIT. The military even wear like UNIT uniforms, and the Doctor kind of takes in charge as him and Sir Charles basically plan out how to stop these war machines, and it's just good. It's just, you could see why this maybe had like a bigger influence, as later on in the 60s the show would basically be told like this, in this format. And yeah, the cliffhanger for episode 3 is probably one of the most iconic shots in Doctor Who history, where the military, they find one of the Wotan robots, the war machines, and whilst it's in this building, it kind of releases some sort of gas which stops the military's guns from working, and it jams their guns, so they have to kind of retreat. And there's a great bit where it smashes through a door and it's coming up towards them, and the military all like running. You can see him like past the Doctor as the Doctor stands middle in shot, and then he like walks up closely to the camera where it's kind of like a medium shot, and that's the cliffhanger. That is just iconic. The Doctor standing up to something that the military cannot handle. No guns, no weapons, no plan worth a damn. Yes, that is the Doctor. Come on. So, but yeah, anyway. So they stop this robot by just finding out that they kind of had the enemies had to kind of like abruptly get it to work before they can even set it out properly. So it didn't have any more commands, and so it kind of just stops. But whilst this is going on, another war machine in a different part of London gets set off and starts killing innocent people. So the Doctor has to deal with that and comes up with this sort of barrier. Now, whilst this is going on, Paulie gets mind controlled, and there's a brilliant scene where the Doctor kind of sends Ben to where the homeless man was, because they found out later on that he died, and they think it might have something to do with Wotan's plans. And so Ben goes to this abandoned warehouse he thought the homeless man was living in, and he finds everything, and he finds Polly, and he's like trying to drag her to get her out, but she's mind controlled, and she basically captures Ben and makes him part of the workforce. Now, a little complaint here. Whilst Ben is working there, they don't mind control him for some reason. So when he gets out and gets back to the doctor, it's just a bit it's a bit too convenient why they didn't mind control him. It's more of a nitpick because the pacing and the dialogue really flows really well. But when you think about that little bit, it's like, huh? Why didn't you mind control him? You would have saved yourself there, Wotan. Idiot. So, whilst this going to, the doctor then has like a plan where he puts like this like electric cable to stop the new war machine from getting around, and it works. And then he kind of programs it to go back to its base and destroy Wotan. Now, this is a really dark moment for the Doctor as he programs it to just go and destroy Wotan, and Ben is like, hold on, Polly's there, let me go and get Polly, and then you can send this machine. And the Doctor's like, no, don't, you fool. And so Ben goes up to the building and takes Polly just as the robot comes in, and before the robot can destroy Wotan, a guy, mind you, an innocent guy who's been mind controlled by Wotan, gets murdered by this machine. So this guy was a direct death from the Doctor's actions. Very, very strange you see something like that, and it's never like brought up. Bit of a weak point, but man, the story just suits very well. So, and then the story wraps up with the Doctor outside the TARDIS, and Ben and Polly explain about Dodo. So the Doctor then heads off into the TARDIS, and Ben realises he didn't give his key back that Dodo had. So they kind of run into the TARDIS, and they become our two companions, Ben and Polly. This is Ben and Polly's first story. So overall, this story is fantastic. It's action-packed. It sets a new trend for Doctor Who, the military thriller, which becomes commonplace later on in the series. And to see this kind of storytelling with the first Doctor is very unusual, but it suits really well. And to see the William Hartnell kind of like become this friend to the military just really works. Now, I have a theory on why this story is so good. As you remember, Ian Stewart Black wrote The Mythmakers, and he's a very political driven writer. Now, there's two types of writers. There's a subconscious political writer, and then there's a conscious political writer. And Ian Stewart Black, I think he's a very conscious. He comes into a story planning out his political themes. Like in the last story, it was the classes, and I think he does great with the political theming. However, when it comes to try and keep the story engaging and having a good concept to go around it, that's where he kind of falls flat, I think. And so with Kit Palmer's ideas, Black has something to work with, and so you get the whole technophobia side of the fear of the coming internet, basically, and it deals with like humans' trust with the internet, with computers, and just how much we need to go into it, and the fear of AI. So it's a precursor to Terminator as well, I've just come to realise, as the robots come to take over humanity, as they fear that the humans are basically too weak. So there you go, that's another reason to watch the story. But it also deals with Ian Black's political writing style. And like I said, he gets the military involved. And there's this whole thing with keeping information from each other as Brett gets mind controlled. And there's this whole thing with mind control. This whole focus on mind control as well. How they're all these bad guys are basically controlled by an evil dictator. So it's a bit like dictatorship, where you have this robot that controls people's minds, and they go off and spread the mind control even further, like propaganda basically. So with these two elements, the technophobia and the mind control, really blends together really well, and it makes this story a massive standout in the first Doctor era. So I highly recommend it. So there's The War Machines. I do apologise. I have a funny feeling this video is going to come out really boring. Because apart from a few nitpicks, I've just basically been praising this story. So if this video is really bad, I do apologise. So join me next time where we meet pirates, and we have Ben and Polly's first pure historical story in The Smugglers. See you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon.